What's going on, guys? I hope you guys are having a fantastic day. Let's go ahead and jump straight into it. So I normally don't talk about Japanese, but Japanese Modern 151 is doing tremendously well. And I guess in a way it's also being bought up so that it can be scalped, so that it can be long-term held and sold. That's another part of it, that the demand is just really strong for Japanese 151. And I kind of wanted to talk about that I think, you know, all the people that were able to get Japanese 151 at any discount whatsoever, I think they did really, really well. Typically, you know, I don't care for talking too much about modern investing. I've made some plays recently. They kind of go against what I traditionally feel like doing. I've moved pretty far away from modern Pokemon card investing and moved more into vintage and grail cards and cards that just really mean a lot to me and that are going to make me happy in my collection. But recently I've thought, you know what? If there's a way that I could recoup some of those costs by selling modern products that are fairly cheap and affordable now and sell those down the road, that's something that, you know, I'm going to take a chance on. And that being said, even though I don't collect Japanese, I think that Pokemon 151 in Japanese at the massive discounted price that it was at, I think it was like 80, 90 USD at one point. And pretty much there are no options left now. It was a very short period. I don't know how, I don't know how it sold so quickly. I don't know how it's unavailable so quickly. I have a feeling, considering that we had a big wave of it come out again, that maybe there will be another wave, because I don't think Pokemon Co. is just going to leave money on the table. I've always said that. That's been my biggest reason for saying that reprints are probably going to happen. In the grand scheme of things, they probably don't matter long term, but when you're thinking short term, like a year or 2 years, you want to see some growth. I think that is one of the biggest fallbacks of modern Pokemon investing, is that it's very hard for a lot of people to have their money locked up in something like that and wait even in the short term, a year or 2 years. But in the long term, I think that reprints are kind of irrelevant. I think the prices are still going to move up. And I have personally started to invest more into my 151 sealed collection. You guys are not going to be happy about this, but I am moving away from opening all of the English 151 that I get in. Right now, I do have one 151 UPC here. We will be opening that for the Wednesdays live. It was supposed to be here last week, but it's here this week. Either way, we'll be opening that up. But aside from that, I am investing in English 151, even though I do think that the Japanese 151, the bargain there, the value there was absolutely worth it. I mean, I'm not even a Japanese collector, and I know that the value was there and that it was worth it. And my hat's off to anybody that made that play, anybody that bought a ton of that product, anybody that just got a couple boxes, people that bought cases. There was Dr. Applesauce. He's a Pokemon YouTuber, fairly big channel, and he posted a community post that showed someone buying up a crap ton of Japanese 151 for their child's college fund, and it was cases. It was cases and cases. We're talking hundreds of booster boxes here, and I just think, I think it was supposed to be a shame post, but I just was like, damn, this dude is a boss. Like, this dude is a boss. He bought a room basically full of cases. My dogs are barking like crazy. Guys, it's just a squirrel. It's just a squirrel. That seemed to stop them. They're like, oh, it's just a squirrel. No, never mind. Guys. Okay. You guys are pretty much used to that by now, though. Occasionally we'll hear dogs barking or Aspen screaming or yelling or some things clinging around in the kitchen in the background, but that is just how it goes on this channel. Anyways, I personally am not hating on anybody that made a massive play with Japanese 151. The opportunity was there. The opportunity presented itself. I think a lot of people were like, oh, Japanese is tanking. But like, I think it's just like the stock market too. We don't like comparing them too often. I try to steer away from that, but more and more it's getting unavoidable as Pokemon is considered more of an asset now. And, I think it's like the market recently, okay? The NASDAQ, I'm watching this because I'm still investing in my active trading portfolio and my Roth IRA, and I'm watching the market, and I put in a decent chunk of money into the market yesterday to bring my average price for shares that I own of a company that I've heavily invested in. It's called QuantumScape. I'm going to leave it at that. I'm not trying to pitch the company I'm invested in, but I put money into that because I saw that the NASDAQ was down, had tanked a good bit, and I wasn't sure if it was going to continue to tank, but I also knew that the value was there to buy in at that price. The same applies, I would say, to Japanese 151. It pretty much tanked, after that big reprint, it tanked down to like a really good bottom dollar price. Now, from what I understand, even $80 or $90 is still 100% markup from what the cost was. I believe it was $40 per Japanese booster box. And please, I'm not an expert on Japanese, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's about $40 USD MSRP for a Japanese booster box. But of course, immediately these things are getting scalped up to a higher price. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Feel free to correct me, but I feel that $80, $90 for that box is a really good value. Now, when we're pushing up to 130, 140 for the box, I think that that's really pushing it considering how modern the set is. Now, for me, going back to what I'm doing with English, I will be primarily focusing on the UPCs are too big. Looking at my back wall as they are piled up, stacked up to almost, halfway up the wall. It's taking up a lot of space in this room, but the UPCs take up a ton of space. So for me personally, I am moving away from buying and investing in the UPCs, even though I do think that there's value there. I do think that maybe in the end, I'll probably keep a couple UPCs because just having a sealed box with those promos and all those packs, I think is a pretty good value. Especially if you can get it around $90, which I believe there are places, there are sites, maybe even TikTok, you can still find UPCs around $90 or maybe even less with coupons. But I am mainly focusing on the booster bundle, and this one I'm just using for reference. It's opened up from one of our last lives. But I love the packaging of these booster bundles. I think they look really, really good. And so for me, even though it's a special set, and I don't necessarily believe in investing in special sets, like Paldean Fates is doing really well right now, so that is kind of going against what I would traditionally think about special sets, even though I'm not a huge fan of Paldean Fates. I think that the booster bundle display cases are a really good idea long-term investing wise. That's what I'm focused on for English. I will be trying to find cases, displays of these for around $300. I know it's higher than MSRP. I know that booster bundles, you can get them probably on Walmart for $27 a piece, but there is a tax to that sealed display case, and it just looks amazing. So for me, that's something I feel really, really good about buying into is those sealed 10 booster bundle display cases. They just look awesome. So I want to start building up my position of English 151 because for me, it was the best thing that happened to Scarlet and Violet. It made me so happy that they released this set. It's the best thing that's happened in Scarlet and Violet, in my opinion. But I'm gonna have to shoot myself in the foot here. I think I'm wrong about temporal forces. And we're gonna talk about it. And even though I don't think that Morty's Conviction and Ghastly, even though I don't think an Iron Crown, I don't think that those are enough necessarily to really add a lot of hype and demand to the set. It doesn't matter what I think. And I have to actually give out information that I think is going to be good advice and truthful. And truthfully, I think that Temporal Forces is probably going to be one of the better sets in Scarlet and Violet. I've said Paldea. We're seeing the Magikarp. I know I say it Magikarp. That's just my little shtick. I know it's Magikarp, but you know we see Magikarp, and it's doing really, really well in Paldea Evolved. And so that's made me kind of think, well, I think Paldea Evolved is going to do really well, and I do like Paldea Evolved. But I think in the grand scheme of things, Temporal Forces actually has a lot more to offer. I think Temporal Forces has more to offer than any of the other sets right now, aside from maybe 151. And I really like Scarlet Violet base, but honestly, I think Temporal might be the biggest set that we get in Scarlet and Violet. And I think a lot of people, you know, it's been compared to Evolving Skies. We're going to talk about that probably in the next video. But yeah, for me, Temporal Forces seems like a buy. I am pivoting. You know, this is still not really a set that I want to open up. There are some amazing cards in there, and we're going to get into that in the next video. But yeah, just giving you guys a heads up that I think that that's also a modern play that I think is kind of unavoidable. You know, I think it's going to be one of the plays that works out in the long term. And honestly, when you look at eBay quantity for how many cases you can buy from the biggest name sellers, there's really not that many. When you look at their quantity, I think it's like 20 to 30 cases I see max that are listed in their eBay listings for how many you can buy. Now, they're probably doing waves, like they're going to do 10 cases at a certain price, then they're going to do 10 cases at a slightly higher price. That's just how these things go. But yeah, we're going to talk about that in the next video. This video, again, was more on the Japanese 151 craze. Japanese card quality is so dang good. I think that anybody who's able to get these boxes $80, $90 a pop is going to do really, really well with Japanese 151. And it is one of the few Japanese products that I actually would open, buy into, invest into, and I kind of feel ashamed that I didn't buy into Japanese 151. And maybe there's still time for me, but I think that ship has already sailed in terms of it kind of going back to the prices it was at previously. But you know, I don't collect Japanese really, but you know, I think that that's going to change very soon, and I will probably always look back and wonder, you know, when that Japanese 151 got really cheap and really abundant and available, you were just sitting idle watching it, buying into English booster boxes. I bought heavily into Battle Styles pretty much when Japanese 151 but was super available and got reprinted. And I'll probably always look back and say, why did I not buy into Japanese 151? Why did I not give that a good shot before putting more money into modern English booster boxes from other sets that are arguably far less popular, right? Like, I see the value in Battle Styles, but also I understand that when you're comparing it to the OG 151 and then Japanese card quality, Japanese 151 just knocks Battle Styles right out of the park. I think anybody will agree on that. So I just want to say, even though I was focused on, you know, these English booster boxes, I see the value in Japanese 151, and my hat's off to anybody that invested in Japanese 151 and got it at these new, more recent lower prices. And this is not to say that people that bought it at 140, 150 a box did terrible, you know, because I do think that down the road, that set's just going to do well in general. But, you know, the guy that was in Applesauce's community post, who bought all those cases of 151. I mean, my hat's off to you. Like, you crushed it on that play. And, you know, this goes into, you know, kind of, you know, people inflating the prices and manipulation. I don't necessarily think that someone buying even that much quantity is necessarily manipulating the market in any way. I see that just as somebody made a really smart, calculated play and bought a lot of that box. People say, don't put your eggs all in one basket. I disagree in a lot of ways. I say put your eggs all in one basket with something that you believe in, something that you have a high conviction with, and something that presents itself as having a lot of value. And I think that Japanese 151 checks all those boxes, especially with the reprint and the price drop. So it's a bummer I missed out on that. Maybe we'll see another reprint. Maybe they won't want to leave money on the table. If they do another reprint, it would be very tempting for me to buy into the set. Now, buying a ton of it, I don't know. But buying maybe a couple cases of it at a new lower price is something that I would consider. Just seems like great value. Anyways, I'm going to let you guys go. Peace.